Did you know that you might be carrying huge, invisible, emotional, and social burdens on your back and no one's going to tell you how to fix it? Because it's kind of useful for them to burden you. What would it be like if one day you woke up and you found out that you'd been carrying this invisible backpack full of weight your entire life, like tons of bricks?
Oh my God. What have I done?
So today, in our missionary life lesson, I'm going to explain how to recognize one source of these burdens, to free yourself from them, and then show an example of Jesus doing that in Scripture. But first, to understand today's missionary life lesson, you need to understand basic economics. Number one, every culture or group has an economy. An economy is simply a system of making and trading things for value. This can be a real-world economy like the US economy, digital economy like the marketplace you'll find in an online game.
Super incubators count, I'm currently left with only 4. So I need to buy more super incubators, as I usually have minimum of 200 super incubators in my item bag all the time.
Or even a social economy that uses likes and views, but I don't think any of those exist yet, so I mean, they're probably just theoretical.
Facebook is pervasive.
Number two, every economy has a currency. So trading things is an easy way for society to start an economy.
Through the art of the swap, I will walk out of this garage sale with the finest item here.
I make a cake, you give me a bushel full of fish heads, we're even. But objects don't have universal value, and they may be difficult to truly calculate value. As objects get more complex, like computers, you can't just break a piece off and trade it. So that's where currency comes into play. Currency is simply a medium of exchange for goods and services.
Things are going very well. I traded a thumbtack for Meredith's junk, for Kelly's crap, for Phyllis's garbage, for Oscar's trash, for Stanley's crap, for Ryan's junk, for Creed's garbage, for a very cute squid that Aaron happened to have.
So it allows us to trade value without using objects themselves. And it could be a shell, a piece of paper, but it's best when currency has something real behind it. Otherwise, you end up with inflation or wheelbarrows full of dosh just to buy bread. So currencies and economies, they work together. Number three, the accumulation of currency and commodities creates wealth. So it may seem obvious, but you know the guy with the massive house probably has more wealth than the person with the shack, or at least the appearance of wealth and a lot of debt. So an economy measures wealth in the amount of currency, commodities, assets that someone has, and it's highly subjective. So most people just think of it as like more money equals more wealth, but all systems and economies have like a wealth system. Number four, economies eventually create a system to buy, trade, sell, and monitor wealth. These economies need a marketplace, banks and rules where people can understand the systems. So markets are where we do business, banks store wealth, and rules are things such as credit scores. Like, can you trust this person to pay you back? Like if there's debt and lending involved.
Well, I married my dream girl, but she didn't tell me her credit was bad. So now instead of living in a pleasant suburb, we're living in the basement at her mom and dad's.
So this leads us to our big reveal. Number five, cultures and groups create social currencies and social economies and a social economic system. So we're all familiar with our visible cash-based economics, but what about the invisible ones, right? Like the economy of education. Your currency is usually things like homework and papers and whatnot, and your wealth, it's scored as a GPA. And the economy produces students of varying qualities, and they literally fight to pay money to get into other schools, which is kind of crazy, but it's an entire system, right? So as missionaries, it's important to be familiar with these concepts because it helps us to enter into different social economies and act appropriately, and as well as meet the needs of those around us. Today, we're going to focus on a commonly proposed Western economy, guilt and innocence. But let us know if you want to see the other ones in action as well. Just tell us in the comments. Have you ever had this experience? You're walking on the street and you see someone who's homeless and they have like a cardboard sign and there's these like deep Sharpie marks and they reveal this harrowing life story. They're a veteran, 4 kids, God bless. They love God and donate to church. It's just this huge story. Like cardboard signs are getting bigger over time. So internally when you pass by, you feel this knot rise up in your stomach like, I have to give to this person. They're poor. I'm so blessed. I feel guilty that this person is suffering. But as the years go on, we see more signs and more homeless people, and eventually the reasons even get ridiculous, like money for kung fu, or the real honest, I just want beer money, right? And sometimes we even think like, that's so refreshing, right? They're just being honest. I don't feel guilt. He just wants beer money. Eventually we see so many of these signs and we start thinking, instead of I have to give, you start to say, that person's probably going to spend my money on bad things. You know, he's not working. Does he just swap clothes, take a shower, and every day get into a car and go to a penthouse? Like, I don't even believe this guy's story. And your whole attitude shifts towards seeing someone on the street who's homeless, who maybe when you're a child you feel bad for them, but when you're an adult or you're way older you feel like, this guy should get a job. This situation shows the working of an economy of guilt and innocence. So the economy is guilt-based. Our currency is guilt, which is actually an inverted currency. Wealth is measured in innocence, and your systems in your marketplace, it's going to be courts, public opinion, social groups, anywhere that people can kind of show the character of someone is going to be that marketplace. So in this society, people are constantly being evaluated with a sort of social wealth score, and it indicates if they're guilty or if they're innocent. Just look at Twitter. Interactions normally follow that what happens is there's a trade between guilt and innocence. Wealth would be calculated in the amount of innocence you have, and guilt is the amount of debt you have. Like, it's way easier to give someone guilt than to give them innocence. So we tend to be like, oh, I'll just do guilt instead. Like, it's an easier currency, right? The value of that currency is set by society, and it's pretty suspicious as a currency because it's not universally standardized. What's wrong for one person isn't wrong for the other. What's good for one person isn't good for the other. So the homeless person's sign is designed to leverage guilt and basically say, I'm giving you guilt. And if the bystander feels the burning pressure of guilt, he's going to use money to secure some sort of innocence. So maybe he'll do a good deed or give that money away, and it's going to be like, I don't need this guilt because I bought my innocence.
I didn't mean to do a mutiny.
The problem, though, is people abuse this system, and we can't operate very well if, like, so many people are pouring guilt on you all the time. So we've designed these internal defense mechanisms. Like, if a guilt interaction is directed at us, we can deflect it and even send the guilt back. So we might make up stories about the person, or don't sincerely consider the situation. He's trying to give you guilt. Oh, I've had a hard life. And so you're kind of like, deflected. You deserve your hard life. And all of a sudden they're guilty. You're innocent, and you're even more innocent because you're being pressured by this maniacal person to do something. So when I started to see the social economy of guilt, I recognized we live in a time where guilt is a weaponized thing against us as human beings. And people are going to skillfully use this to make you do what they want. Maybe you come home, or your boss comes in and he says, you need to work extra hours, when you clearly said you can't. And they make it feel like the whole business is going to fail if you don't come in. Yet there's this other guy, right, Billy in produce, and he gets weekends off because he just throws a fit. And so you see the boss as guilty, and he sees you as guilty, and you want to throw the guilt towards Billy, but you're afraid this is going to make you seem petty, and thus you'll feel guilty, and you kind of see how messy this guilt system gets. So we start getting invisible burdens. We volunteer out of guilt instead of love. We serve out of obligation.
Guess what? I have flaws. What are they? Oh, I don't know. I sing in the shower. Sometimes I spend too much time volunteering. Occasionally I'll hit somebody with my car. So sue me.
These burdens, they come from everywhere. They come from friends, they come from family, they could come from your spouse. There's just guilt, and it starts to poison you until eventually you're so weighed down you can't operate. And sometimes you create enough defense mechanisms to just deflect it, but oftentimes we just withdraw, or we justify our life to others, or we ignore real needs because of it. So how do you fight an overwhelming system where guilt's leveraged against you? You need to escape the system. Comparing, contrasting, there's not a subject that we cannot reach. So Jesus offers a solution that directly tackles the system. In Matthew 11, Jesus says, "Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is comfortable and my burden is light." And if you know anything about farming, the yoke was something that was put on ox to make their work stronger and more efficient. But during the time of Jesus, the yoke became used as a metaphor for rabbis' different teachings. And so they would have their own yoke, and they'd say, follow this, and it will help you to live this way and that way. So Jesus was referencing these laws and systems that religious leaders of the day put on people. Rules on rules on rules, and no one could ever measure up.
You will never be enough.
Well, the social economy that they had was different. Jesus showed two concepts that directly combat the guilt economy. First, he showed mercy, and mercy is compassion or forgiveness shown towards someone whom it's within your power to punish or harm. And second, he showed grace. Now, grace is unmerited favor or kindness. So imagine Jesus is walking past the same homeless guy. First, Jesus is guilt-free. He doesn't have sin. So his defense towards that, it's like +5, all nat 20s. Like nothing can touch him, like he's wearing armor towards guilt. So there's no pressure from a guilt interaction. He's not even in the economy. So when we see Jesus, we see he operates on grace. Now, grace doesn't work if it's forced. That would be a transaction. I gave you like a soda, right? And I start tapping my foot and I'm like, where's my money for my soda, pal? Where's my money? That's not a gift. It's not grace. It's an obligation. It's transaction. It's actually giving a burden. Sometimes people give gifts as burdens to control you. Another guilt innocence transaction. They're like, hey, here's a nice shiny necklace. And then you kind of like get into a fight later and like, but I bought you the necklace. It was a tool to weaponize guilt.
Oh, just got a text from Amy. She's not coming. Again.
But I brought all this cheese.
So Jesus, working in a grace system, could simply just give the person money or not give him money. He's not trying to buy innocence. It doesn't matter. Like, he's free from that obligation. When the giving aspect is brought up, there's none of this pressure. Like, it's not a bad thing if he doesn't give. It's not a bad thing if he does give. Now, the Bible says if it's in your power to do good, don't withhold it, but a lot of times we have to take that in the context of what good means and all these different things, and it doesn't mean every time you see a problem, you fix the problem, because there's actually rules as well about like, don't overgive, so then all of a sudden you're living on welfare and the temple has to provide for you. So Jesus walking past this guy, right? He looks at him and he sees this sign and it says, I've got all this going on, right? That's not why Jesus makes the decision to give or to not give. If he gives, it's out of grace. It's out of just loving and doing good, like God lavishes grace and love upon all of us. Second, we see Jesus operates on mercy. So mercy doesn't bring back the past or any of that into the conversation. He doesn't see this guy's baggage and history and pull that all into the conversation if he's using mercy and say, oh, I'm not going to give to you because of this. So the homeless guy feels seen. Jesus isn't even in the guilt and innocence economy, and I'd love to say like the answer is to give or don't give, but it's not that simple. Instead, it's don't give out of obligation, because if it's a guilt interaction, you're not really giving. You're feeling abused and pressured. But also, don't ignore a need because you think somebody might have physical or mental problems or have made mistakes in life. Because as Christians, we're also supposed to show mercy. We're not supposed to hold everybody's baggage against them. And that has to have wisdom involved. But when you break out of this guilt economy, it's incredibly freeing. There's no pressure to be bad or good in so many situations. There's only something like mercy, make the homeless person visible, and grace, a way to show the love of God and the favor of God. And this is how we have rest. Because all of a sudden, all of this guilt and pressure and the rules of man that are on us and the rules that, like you can't even go on Twitter and say something like, I like cats. People will be like, well, what about all the other species you didn't say that you like? You're a terrible person. The world we live in wants to box you in with guilt. It wants to destroy your voice. It wants to destroy who you are. And it's going to try and leverage that to control you. Are you exhausted?
Are you always tired? Do you mope around the house, dreaming big dreams, but lack the energy to make them come true? Well, maybe it's because you suck.
Are you serving at church because you feel if you don't show up, you're going to look bad? Do you constantly support family members who maybe they leverage guilt over you and you don't have any respect or value in that relationship, but you feel you have to do something, not because you get to do something or because you're showing grace or mercy? Do you sit alone in bed at night and wonder how God can love or accept someone as guilty or as broken as you? Have you tied some sort of expectations to his grace? And more, what happens in an economy like this where you try to give guilt to God, right? God's this perfect being and you make this moral law or this moral idea and it's like, God's like, you can eat meat and you're a vegan and you love animals, but you think that God's evil because we can eat animals. And all of a sudden you're like, God, your law isn't as good as my law, and you give him guilt. What does that do to your faith? It destroys it. Because people in this economy, that's all they use for their relationships, and it becomes so destructive, and it's not authentically how God operates. It's so much more complex than that, but we try to give guilt to him, and we don't respect a God with debts. So you need to break free of the guilt economy. Don't let people push guilt on you. Now, clearly, I'm not saying guilt itself is wrong. Like, if you murder someone, you should feel guilty. But 99% of our human interactions with guilt are not coming from the law of God and the word of God. It's coming from different places, and it's a problem. You need to identify guilt-based decisions. You need to audit your life, and you need to remove the invisible baggage. Because maybe when guilt's removed and you can express mercy and grace is shown, we're able able to do good just for the sake of doing good. We're able to love our neighbor as ourselves instead of a pet project. And we're able to say no to some things and get back that power and control of saying yes because it's good. It's like you are excited to serve because you're getting to do good. You need to think about the economy of the interactions you have and the currency being traded and kind of think, is this a biblical or unbiblical currency? So thank you for watching. Please subscribe to Pilgrimage Films. We really appreciate it. So do you see the guilt economy? Let us know in the comments below if you've seen different interactions with guilt and innocence or different ways people have used guilt to leverage it over you. Or if you don't see it, let us know that too. We'd love to discuss it and talk about it and see if maybe you're in a different economy of how the social interactions work. Alarm, 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 alarm. Everybody loves it when you can hear an alarm.